Now, no doubt you've heard the latest abomination over breastfeeding. Yes, breasts, you know, the mammary glands of women are part of their anatomy that play a vital role in the feeding of babies and which attract an enormous amount of attention when it comes to talk about figure, fashion and feminism. Well, now, even the most essential purpose of the breast, feeding babies, is apparently up for grabs by blokes. The Weekend Australian's Bernard Lane revealed that the taxpayer-funded Australian Breastfeeding Association and LGBTQ plus group Rainbow Families have collaborated on a $20,000 transgender-inclusive guide for people who chest feed. Yep, women don't breastfeed, people chest feed. It also details how biological men who identify as women can, with the aid of chemicals, induce human milk feeding. And as this poster details, 2 mums can nurse, 2 dads can lactate, a trans dad can chest feed, as can a non-binary birth parent. All options are covered, even on one of the 7 variants, a mother breastfeeding with the support of the father. How about that? To add to this, activists want to replace the term mother with parent. Of course, what reasonable person could argue with this enlightened progressive ideology? Answer? Just about every biological mum or mum-to-be or aunt or person who's sick of this woke madness. Now they're starting to speak out, and they've been backed by Tasmanian Liberal Senator Claire Chandler, who always talks sense on these issues, and she's written to the Health Minister Greg Hunt to alert him that women, as in biological women, in the Australian Breastfeeding Association are repelled by this activism. You can't get a clearer sign that damaging and divisive identity politics is taking over in Australia than mothers volunteering their time with a government-funded breastfeeding support group being told using the words mother and breast milk aren't inclusive, said Senator Chandler. Governments should take a firm, common-sense public stance by rejecting such nonsense, because if governments don't, it's much harder for smaller organisations to withstand the pressure coming from identity politics. Well said, Senator. But the response from the Minister's office is hardly encouraging. A spokesperson says workplace conditions are a matter for the Australian Breastfeeding Association, and the government supports the rights of individuals to make use of any descriptors they prefer while encouraging respect for the preferences of others. So don't expect any help from Labor either, because in 2018 they dropped references to mothers and maternal health in a party document, instead referring to people and individuals. And we'll all need to take a deep breath and gird our loins, because this kerfuffle is worldwide and it's built up considerable momentum.
Cancel culture strikes again, especially on college campuses, where you can no longer refer to a woman nursing her baby as breastfeeding. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Ignoring the science, some academics are insisting that by using the term breastfeeding, people are endorsing, quote, a controversial set of values about family life and gender roles.
Oh boy, this is biological appropriation, isn't it? It's brought to you by the Australian Breastfeeding Association. Shouldn't they change their name now to Chestfeeding Association? This, of course, is brought to you by activists who know all about milking government funds, but absolutely nothing about the milk of human kindness. Let's try and get some sense on this issue now from Bella Debrera from the Institute of Public Affairs. Now, Bella, no one wants to isolate or ostracise other people in family arrangements, but can't we just agree that mothers breastfeed?
We really have to. So the main there's so many problems with this, but the main thing is that they say we need to start talking about chest feeding and stop saying mother because of gender, because of inclusivity. But of course, you can't. This is completely exclusive. Being able to breastfeed, being able to have babies, is completely exclusive to women. And I'm going to say something that's going to be shocking to many people on Twitter. Biological men exist and biological women exist, and only the latter can have babies, and only the latter have breasts, and only the latter can actually breastfeed. Twitter will probably explode because I'm actually making a distinction between biological men and women, which is unbelievable that an organization like the ABA is now taking on this identity politics. And we're going into really dangerous territory because we're basically cancelling womanhood and we're cancelling the existence of women. And I take that very personally as a woman. I don't really want to be cancelled, probably along with the rest of, 53% of the Australian population.
It's science. It's science. It's important we back a science-based approach.
It's science. But what we're seeing is people creating their own realities. So, for millennia, societies have understood that there are two distinct biological genders. This is the first time in human history where people are creating their own reality and saying, actually, that's not the case. And what kind of society are we producing where no one can agree on such a basic reality? We're producing a society of just of insanity, and it's very, very dangerous. And the other thing I'll point out is that for weeks we've seen government-funded bodies, independent bodies like ACARA, like the Human Rights Commission, and now this ABA, peddling identity politics, peddling critical race theory, peddling all this radical gender theory under the auspices of a conservative government. And the conservative government has done nothing to stop this happening.
They've got to stand up to this.
In a conservative government, expecting something to be done, and they're not standing up to it at all. And Scott Morrison said that he's worried about identity politics, but what are they doing about it?
Well, here's where they can make a stand, and it's not just culture wars. This will hurt women. I mean, breastfeeding is not always easy. You need people who will help out, volunteers helping out in this organisation, and they're going to stay away from it in their droves if they're pushing this sort of stuff.
Yeah, so it's not helping anyone. It's first of all, it's cancelling women, as I said earlier, which is what's been happening in women's sport, which is on the verge of extinction, precisely because of this crazy ideology. And these poor women who need help at a very difficult time, and they've just had a baby, they need this kind of support, aren't going to be getting this support. So this helps nobody. It just creates division, and it's and no matter how much you change the language, you can never change biological reality. You can never change science.
Spot on. Thanks for joining us, Bella. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Bella de Brera there, speaking sense again from the Institute of Public Affairs.